Hey lovelies, thanks for stopping by my channel today for another Shop My Stash BYOP. I am very excited for this month. I think it fits in very well with the season, honestly very well with the trends recently, and I'm excited to be getting more use out of my eyeshadows. Definitely really enjoying using what I have and trying to avoid the urge to buy all the new because there is a lot of new. There are a lot of new singles, there are a lot of new eyeshadow palettes that have been coming out, and I think that this is a great way to, be inspired to just stick with what I have. Now, if you are new to this series, my friend Terra and I started this as a way, like I said, to use the eyeshadows that we have, really celebrate them, really bring them to the forefront, and not just buy, swatch, set in the palette, and then it goes and collects dust. It can be very easy to have that happen. You swatch it, you ooh and ah at all the color, all the sparkles, and then, they sit in a palette and you just don't end up grabbing for them. So we really wanted to do this to encourage ourselves to get more use out of the makeup we have, and I think it's really been a fun way to get creative and encourage all of you, hopefully, to do the same. And if we haven't met before, my name is Kelly and I'm a professional hair and makeup artist, and here on my channel I strive to keep beauty real. Real honest, real relatable, and real fun. So if that sounds like something you'd enjoy, don't forget to click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future videos. We're gonna get right into this palette. Now you've probably saw from the thumbnail that this month we are doing a underwater theme. I am really excited to be doing this theme this month. This was gleaned, if you will, from comments that all of you had made. Kara and I had posted that we would be taking suggestions from viewers, from fellow makeup lovers on what we should do this month. And several people actually said underwater or something along those lines. There were really so many great ideas, very creative, very fun ideas that we have written down, set to the side for future. So we will definitely be pulling some of those out. By the way, if you ever have an idea for something that you'd like to see, always feel free to drop it in the comments. You don't have to wait for us to ask. You can always say if there's something that you would like to see. We have really loved the fun community that we've built through this series. If you love eyeshadows, if you love shopping your stash, if you are just really excited to have a fun way to kind of like dig into your singles collection, we are glad that you are here with us, and we always want this to be a collective. So please feel free to drop ideas in the comments at any time. You don't have to wait for us to ask for it. We really love hearing what you would like to see. And speaking of a collective, this is an open collaboration. Please feel free to join in when you would like if you are a creator, and skip it on the months that you either don't have time or the theme doesn't speak to you. We really play this pretty fast and loose. In fact, the only rule, if you will, is that we use 10 shadows. And that's not even one that you can't necessarily break. You can do your own thing. And if you do want to join in, personally, we always upload on the last Thursday of the month. We will always share with you next month's theme. And like I said, please feel free to do it when you want and skip out when you don't. If you're not a creator, maybe you do still want to share your color story with us, you can always tag us in a photo on Instagram, whether that's, in private, in DMs, or if you want to share it on your stories or on your own feed. We would love to see that. We really have just enjoyed all of the makeup love that this series has created. I feel like I'm getting a bit nostalgic because we are coming up on our 2-year anniversary, if you can believe that. But let's get into this month's palette. Now again, this is underwater, and I feel like I took a step to the side of what I have a feeling most people think of as underwater palettes. I think that this really hits the nose on the head on the nose, the nail on the head, the nail on the head. I really think that this hits the nail on the head. There's something hits it on the nose, right? Whatever I'm trying to say, I really think that this theme does it right now, because obviously we're tipping into summer here. I think that's when a lot of us think of underwater sort of vibes. I don't know what the heck's going on outside, if you can hear those sirens. This is just crazy. Every time I've been sitting down to film recently, it's been getting just so loud outside. At any rate, I also think that there is a huge sort of underwater vibe going through the makeup community right now. You have both Adept and Clionadh doing their underwater themed. You also, of course, have The Little Mermaid coming out. Who else is so excited to go see that movie? And of course, there have been, collabs with that theme with makeup brands. So I think that this is just really a thing that's out there right now. So it's very tempting. It's very tempting to be drawn into all those things. If you love those and you're going to purchase all of them, great. I am actually trying to avoid all of them. So it was great for me to dip into my collection to see, what I would like to see in an underwater palette. Now, personally, for my underwater palette this month, I wanted to go in a direction color-wise that would really speak to me. And actually, I sort of used an inspiration that is very personal to me. And I always say when I create these BYOPs, I try to create a palette that I truly would be interested in purchasing. Sometimes it's happened, you know, stronger than others. There have definitely been some palettes that I'm like, I'm leaving this out for a while because I love this one. But I really always try to create something that to me is very cohesive and something that, you know, really speaks to me. So for this month, I really went in a direction color-wise, more so in a direction that I would personally wear, and I'll show you that in a second. I also did choose to use an inspiration that really speaks dear to me, and if you are not new to my channel, you will know that Jeremy and I were able to go on vacation this winter. We went on a 12-day cruise, and I did a whole little like sit down chat, semi-vlog style video on our trip, and that was what I used as a theme for this color palette. I really wanted to go through, look through my pictures, just remember some of the experiences and draw in from that because we did spend a lot of time underwater on that. I think we went snorkeling, I don't even know at this point, 5 times? I don't even know. A lot of times, and definitely enjoyed the water. I am definitely a water baby, even though I'm a Virgo, I'm an earth sign. I definitely like, I love that water experience. All right, so I know that I've been talking a lot and you haven't even seen the shades yet. So I'm gonna show you the palette. Of course, I will be doing swatches. We'll do a look and we'll really get to experience this underwater collection together. So here is my palette. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this down because I feel like you're really not getting to see these shades. And of course, I will give you an up close look. Now, I think, like I said, I think this is going to be very different than what some people might think of when they think of underwater. But my experience with underwater definitely has, woo, look how dark I look. I wish I was that tan. So my experience with underwater, especially like in the Caribbean waters, you're definitely getting more of that like aqua and teal water as opposed to the blue. And I think, you know, maybe if you're deeper underwater or you're like further out in the water, you're getting more of those deeper blue tones. But for me, this is really a very like towards the shore, doing the snorkeling kind of vibe underwater. And that's where I went with this palette. And again, I went through pictures and just really gleaned off of some of the beautiful colors from that experience. This is also why this palette works better for me. While recently I have been kind of dipping my toes more into blues and purples, it's not something that I really choose to wear a lot. So this is a palette that I will get much more use out of. All right, so now you know the inspo behind my palette. Let's go ahead and do a deep dive. No underwater pun intended. We'll get into the swatches. I can't wait to create a look with this. I'm definitely looking forward to getting a little bit more makeup on my face. So let's go right now. Okay, the first shade in our palette today, and one of the first shades that I picked up. This is Big Dipper from Terra Moons. I think the shade is so pretty. I honestly have not utilized it enough, so I thought that today would be a great day to take advantage. This has a very beautiful aqua base to it, but tons and tons of shine and shimmer. I tell you what, I mean, Terra Moons just really has some beautiful dimensional shades. I don't know if you'll even be able to get that to focus or if I will be able to get that to focus. Of course, as always, I will be giving you up close look at the swatches, and you know, we'll be working with the lighting so that you can get a really true look at these shades. But you can just see how, I mean, you can definitely tell. Let me just turn this down a smidge. So you can see that beautiful base tone that is under this, and then it really flips through this like pink, almost like purple into the greens. It's just so multi-dimensional. And this, for me, gives me the vibes of that shimmering water, that turquoise water that just really has so much reflectivity. I have to tell you that this shade probably is going to stain. You can see how much like underlying pigment there is in that one. I don't know, have I worn this one all day before? But I could see it kind of staining. Just a little warning there. But this really has that, I mean, just that feel, like that feel of what I thought of as like mermaid, you know, that like mermaid water. This also could totally be like mermaid scales, like mermaid tail. I tell you what, like I said, The Little Mermaid is one movie that I have loved for a very long time. I also was just really in love with mermaids when I was a little kid. My one friend and I, in the summertime, we would spend our days drawing mermaids, and my father he had a fish tank at one point that had fish in it, and he had, you know, cleaned it all up. It was just like there, but it still had all the things inside of it. And he would let my friend and I tape our mermaids, like our like paper doll like mermaids. Like we would draw them, we would color them, we would give them like different, you know, like outfits, if you will. He would let us tape them inside of the fish tank, and then it would like create this like diorama. And we did that so much in the summertime. Like that was, I still remember that. So I've always loved mermaids. So this kind of gives me mermaid vibes for sure. Okay. So then this next shade is one that to me really has a beautiful, I mean, the color of it, you might think, oh, okay, that's kind of similar, but the finish of this is very different. It is much less opaque and it's almost a bit more murky. So this is the shade Kevin from Odens Eye. So this is one of their newer multi-chrome shadows, the Jewel Shine collection. And you'll see in the swatch here that this has, like I said, it just is a little bit grungier and a bit more murky. And I think that this is going to be fun just because it represents that, you know, like almost like low light water. It's a, like I said, I just keep saying murky, and it just has that like funkier base tone, but it still has some beautiful like green to purple flip. I really like this one. I don't know that I've used it a lot, and that was part of why I wanted to pull it into this, but I think it also has some unique properties to it and will create a beautiful like layering shade as well. So I think that this is just going to be one that will bring a lot to this palette, and I haven't used it enough. So that was one of the reasons that I wanted to pull this in. And what I find is, you know, when I've gone snorkeling in the past, sometimes, especially in like lower light situations, the colors underneath are much more subdued, desaturated, and it isn't like bright, you know, like if you're in, you know, high light situations or you're in like shallow water, you're going to get more of these types of colors. But if you're in a lower light situation, it does sometimes get like dulled down. I definitely have noticed that, like in pictures, you're like, oh, that just isn't like all that vibrant. And a lot of times it's just because of the light. So that to me just kind of like represents that. Now here is a shade, I think I've actually used this in quite a few BYOPs, but this is the shade Khadra from Devinah. And this to me just represents that beautiful Caribbean water. You know, it's not as much blue as it is that turquoise tone. This is maybe a little bit grungier than what you would see, but this is really a shadow that I would wear, and I do wear all the time. So I kind of get that like just that underwater vibe from this shade. And again, I know that I say this a lot, but Devinah mattes are so versatile because you can really sheer them out. They can be built up. So I think that this could be, you know, a deeper shade, but it also could be like buffed out with a fluffy brush and create a lighter shade as well. So love having that, especially in a 10-pan palette. You know, for me, I think my ideal palette is probably, I don't know, you know, 14, 16 shades, just because I do really like to have lots of different color options. So to have something that could be several shades is something that I enjoy. Now, this next one for me represents a few things that you will find underwater. This is Dirt Road from Sydney Grace. And this, I mean, it might seem, you know, like your basic shade, but this really is that very like sandy color. You know, you're gonna see all the sand. It also could represent, you know, some of the shells, some of the corals, different things where you just have that beautiful, like beigey, sandy shade. And I was looking for something that I thought would really work well with these other colors. You know, if you just wanted something to be able to buff into the crease really easily, you know, maybe you're just gonna do like a 2 and done look, this would be a great way to go. This is actually, for me, it's a beautiful neutral shade because it does have that little bit of like almost like yellow orange to it, which really suits my skin tone. You know, I am sort of more like neutral, leaning a little bit more into like olive skin and like golden skin, but I think that this is just going to be one that you can buff on quickly and be good to go. If you were, you know, maybe more cool toned, maybe you would choose more of like a pink sand. Oh, that's what I should have done. That's what I should have done, because that sand in Barbados was so beautiful. Missed opportunity. Maybe in the next beachy palette. Okay, so this next shade is a Clionadh shade, and I purposely wanted to dive into my Clionadh shades because I recently did a sort of like duping the vibes of the Clionadh Deep Sea Treasure palette, and you know, really why I wasn't gonna be buying that palette. And one thing that I've realized recently is that I just don't reach for my Clionadh shades much. And you know, that could be the ones that I chose to purchase. It could be that, you know, maybe it's just in a palette that I don't grab for a lot. So now it just kind of like reminds me that I need to take more of an effort to use my Clionadh shades. I really, you know, kind of want to see how I feel about them, especially since in July, I'm going to be at a nail polish expo in Chicago, and Clionadh is actually going to be there. And yes, while they're there to like celebrate their nail polishes, they will also have eyeshadow. So I need to decide if I want to pick anything up, and what better way to decide that than use the shadows that I have. Okay, so this is the shade Opulent, and this one, I think, again, it represents more of a vibe of Underwater. And one of the things about this is, to me, it's a very unexpected shade. It's such an interesting mix of tones, because I think that you have like a purpley taupe vibe, but it also has some gold shimmer to it. And this just gives me a little bit of that like underwater sea creature, like fish scales, but not like the overly colorful fish. And that's one thing that I find, you know, on a lot of the snorkeling trips that I've done. Not all of the fish are going to be like bright, bright blue, bright orange, yellow, you know. Some of them are that like sort of just like shimmery, catch the light kind of color. You know, it's like kind of like, but they still have such a beautiful texture to them that I think that this really represents that well. And this, it's such a pretty, unique shade, because it has so many different colors in it. And to me, I think that, you know, just really represents that kind of feeling of that like fish underwater, that like shimmery vibe. So that's where I went with this one. Okay, I hope you're all along for the ride of my like inner thought rambles. Wow. So this next one, to me, represents the starfish. And that was one really cool thing. I think it was the first snorkeling stop that Jeremy and I did on this last trip. We actually saw some really cool starfish. I got a couple really pretty pictures of the starfish, so I just remember that. And again, that was like our first snorkeling stop on this last trip, so it just made it kind of special. So I wanted to pull in a color that I felt represented the starfish well, and this is Lynx from Devinah Cosmetics. This, you know, is that like orange into yellow. It just, you know, it represents some of the colors within the starfish, but I just think that this like sparkly texture, obviously starfish are not sparkly, but they have that sort of like speckly vibe. And I think that, you know, you get, I don't know, it just kind of gives me that reminder. So I also really love this shade. It's so fun when I pull out my single shadows to see the shadows that have like the biggest dip in them. Ooh, look how pretty that is. I'm really loving the way that this palette is shaping up so far, I'm not gonna lie. But it's really fun to see what shadows in my collection have the bigger dips, because, you know, when you have a lot of single shadows, I don't have the largest collection by any means, but a decent sized one. You know, the fact that I am close to pan or have big dips in several shades is just like crazy to me. So I actually, who was I just watching recently? Seeking Shifts. So Riley, and I was like, oh my gosh, she has actual pan in some of her like Terra Moon shades, some of those. And I was like, wow, I don't know that I have pan in any of my singles yet. I know that she does a lot of like swatching content for brands. And, you know, a lot of times, especially if you're like laying down a couple layers, I know that like can take some product up, but I was like, whoa, like, it's just so cool. I cannot wait. I cannot wait until I like hit pan in my first single shadow. I don't think I've done it yet. I've definitely broken a couple and seen pan that way, but not from hitting pan. Anyway, we're really rambly today. Sorry about that. Maybe it's too much coffee, or maybe it's not enough. Who knows? So this next shade, I had to pull in one of the Sea of Shadows. How was I going to do this video and not pull in one of those beautiful shades? I chose to pull in Swirling Waters. This is, again, another Devinah shade. This one is one that I haven't touched a whole lot yet. I think did I use it in my video? I don't think so. So I think I've only swatched this one. Blues are not something that I go towards a lot, but I do like the fact that this one is a blue that has a lovely aqua shift. And I think that that's one thing that's going to make this a bit more wearable for me. And, you know, it really does represent that like gorgeous. I mean, look at that. That is just like in the middle of the ocean. You're in the sun. You see the beautiful sunshine shimmering on the waves. Ugh. Just so gorgeous. So I think that this is one that makes a nice addition to this palette. I'm very excited. So this next one, if you saw a glimpse of this in the in the palette when I first pulled it up, you might be kind of surprised. But this actually represents one of my most favorite moments on our last vacation. And that was when I was able to have that like really up close experience with that sea turtle. And in my pictures and in the video, you can see, like, I think a lot of times people think of sea turtles as being like really green, but oftentimes they're actually more of like browns and reds and sandy colors. And there was just, oh, I was so excited to be able to catch in a couple of the photos and in the video the beautiful tones of the one sea turtle. And so that's what this color represents, is that beautiful, like reddy, warm brown. By the way, I will make sure to have that vacation vlog linked down below if you do want to check it out. But this color, oh, I just love this. I've definitely used the shade a lot. This is Solomon, by the way, from Sydney Grace. And it is just such a yummy color. And I think that, you know, that, that red-based brown really pairs well up against the greens that are in this palette. It's just that beautiful, like, complementary shade that will work well with the greens, with the aquas that are in here. And, you know, sometimes it's just nice to have like one beautiful rich matte that you can put in, even if you then just wanted to like tap one of these on for a halo eye, or maybe pop a little something on the inner corner. And I think that that's really going to be a beautiful shade for that. This next shade is on like the other end of the spectrum as far as mattes go. And this is the lightest sort of like sea vibes, sea foam that I could think of in my collection. And this is London Fog, again from Devinah. But this shade London Fog, I think this might have been in another BYOP, but this shade is just this beautiful, hazy, like aqua meets very light gray. And again, I think that this is just a beautiful, like, sea foam, but make it grungy. You know, this could really be beautiful to just blend in some of these aqua shades. You could use it as a pop on the inner corner if you're looking for something that's, you know, not a shimmer shade. I really love this one, and I knew that I was gonna grab that one. So this next shade, again, is another Clionadh shade, but it's not a stained glass. This is actually one of the round pans, circle pans, whatever it is. I should probably just look it up so that I actually start using the right terminology. This is the shade Alpine. Now, again, the thing that I like about this shade is this is an aqua, but it has some beautiful dimension to it. And I just love the like warm cast that this has. And, you know, when you look at it, it's like, okay, it's a very aqua base, but it just has this like warm green gold sheen to it, I guess I would say. It's not even like, I don't know, it is a very delicate duochrome. Like, to me, that is duochromatic, but it doesn't have a lot of sparkle particle to it, so it's just a really rich, beautiful, saturated shade. So I think that this definitely gives some underwater vibes that aren't in that like really like blue region. I will be very curious to see what Terra does. I know that she's normally not a blue eyeshadow wearer either, so I'll be curious to see the direction that Terra leans into with this. I don't know, I really like this. I will tell you though, I was very tempted. I was very tempted to put in like a purple in here just to like represent like Ariel's like seashell bikini top, because I just love those mermaid vibes. But this, to me, this does give me mermaid vibes. It definitely does. It's on par with that like palette. I'm really gonna have a lot of fun with this one, I think. You know what? I wasn't planning on doing 2 looks with this, just time-wise. I have a feeling this video is already gonna be pretty long just because I've been very chatty. But I think that this color story is so beautiful. I'm very inspired to do 2 looks just to see the different vibes that we can get from it. So I think I'm gonna do that. So I'll probably just do sort of like, you know, a little sped up, quickie set to music vibe here to do the 2 looks. I will make sure as I go through and I'm changing shadows out that I'll mark up here somewhere which shadow I'm using. And of course I will list all of the shades down below that I'm using as well in today's palette. So before I get into my eye looks, I'm gonna go ahead and give you an up close look at my underwater palette. All right, our first shade is Big Dipper by Terra Moons. We have Kevin from Odens Eye, Khadra from Devinah Cosmetics. We have Dirt Road from Sydney Grace, Opulent from Clionadh. There you can kind of see that like shift that one has, so pretty. Then this next one is Lynx from Devinah Cosmetics. We have Swirling Waters from Devinah Cosmetics. Again, I'll give you just a little twist here so you can really see that. And then the beautiful Solomon from Sydney Grace. Here we have London Fog from Devinah Cosmetics, and this last one is Alpine from Clionadh. Just love this color story. All right, it's been a couple hours since we last saw each other in swatch mode. I did decide to go ahead and put on a bit of bronzer and blush just to get a little bit of, you know, contour and color to the face. I haven't put on any concealer. I'm hoping that I don't get too much sparkle fallout, but if I do, that means I can wipe this away. And then the concealer will just, you know, hide all the sins, hopefully. So I'm trying to decide where I want to go with this. I think I'm going to do one more, like, let's call it monochromatic kind of vibes, and then do one that's kind of a combination of warm and cool tones. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. It's just going to be some fun playtime for me, and I hope you enjoy.
You said you want a bad one. Well, baby, I'm as bad as they come. Said you want a hot one. Yeah, you with the hottest under the sun. But be careful what you wish for. Make you eat your words. If I'm more than what you bargain for. Fun to flirt, but promise to deliver. Much is required. Cause look at what I'm giving you. You ain't really ready for real. You ain't even ready for real. You ain't really ready. Won't be faithful to someone ungrateful. I can't try to make you if you ain't you. You ain't really ready for real. You ain't even ready for real. You said you want a real one. Well, it don't get no realer than the realest one. Baby, can you handle me? If you really want it, better come get you some. But be careful what you wish for. Make you eat your words. If I'm more than what you bargained for. One dessert, but you ain't finished dinner. Much is required. Cause look at what I'm giving you. You ain't really ready for real. You ain't even ready for real. You ain't really ready. Won't be faithful to someone ungrateful. I can't try to make you if you ain't you. You ain't really ready for real. No, you. You'll never miss a good thing until it's gone. Oh, baby, you know you're wrong. Yeah, I know you're gonna own it right back. Say you changed, but baby, I know that's cap. I see reality and the fact.
All right, here we have our two looks. Definitely more of that monochromatic, kind of like blown out halo eye on this side. I do always love a good warm and cool combo. This is just so tasty to me. So just a little note, the mascara that I put on was the L'Oreal Telescopic Lift on both sides. And then I did actually pop this one from my recent Get Ready With Me, my drawer of shame. I talked about the Danessa Myricks kits that I got, and this is the Emerald, let's see, what are they calling these? The Infinite Chrome Waterproof Micro Pencils or something like that. So that's what's on my inner waterline on this. So that's what's on my waterline on this side, nothing on this side. So I really like this. You know, it's very interesting. So as you saw, I put Big Dipper on the center here, and I can see when my eye is closed, like the extra dimension and shift that gave it. But I'm just wondering if I like turn it one way or the other, is it really that different? It's so interesting. I mean, these both have much more like shimmer and shine than the Clionadh shade does. Like that's just a nice, I mean, it looked very shiny and shimmery until I put these ones on. You know, like here you're like, oh, I love that like shimmer shade. But next to these, it almost looks like satin. Isn't that just crazy? But when I popped this on, I was like, oh, I don't know if I would do a halo eye with those two again because it's just such a subtle difference. But that's actually also what makes it nice. And I did use that London Fog as my inner corner as well. So I think I used every single shade in here but one. I did not use Lynx. So I could have used Lynx over here if I wanted a contrasted look, but I said I was gonna keep it monochromatic. And I could have used it here, but I really wanted to use that Clionadh shade, so I'll definitely be keeping this one out because I think for me, this is gonna be the epitome of like a fun little summer palette that has a lot of color in it. So I'm serious. Like I always say that. And I really do. I tend to end up using it like a few days when I'm getting ready for work, just like pulling it out and getting to explore a couple more options with these palettes. I definitely feel like both of these looks give underwater vibes. Like this is very like mermaid, like this is like summer, like ocean paradise vibes. I don't know, that's how I feel. Anyway, I cannot wait to tell you what's in store for next month, so let's go ahead and get into that right now. Okay, now that I'm like zoomed out and I get to see like the full picture, I mean, I would probably put on more blush, let's face it. More blush and more bronzer. I'm good for today, but I really do like both of these looks. I think that this is just like fun summer vibes, definitely gives me that aquatic underwater feel. I really hope we have a few more creators join in on this one this month because I think this could be a very pretty color palette in a lot of different ways. So if there are other creators that join in, I will of course make sure to have them linked in the description down below. And then of course, make sure that if you decide to create a palette, tag Kara and myself on Instagram if you decide to pop a picture up. I would love to see. So as I'd mentioned, I think, if I've done the math right, I think that next month is BYOP number 24. Oh, okay. Okay, this is funny because Kara actually just messaged me while I was filming this, asking some things about this month's palette. And then I started talking to her and I was like, wait, maybe I miscounted and maybe this following month isn't our anniversary, it's the following. And indeed, that is the case. It was July when we put up our very first BYOP. So that means our anniversary is in 2 months. So I think what we had planned we'll probably hold off on, which means, we need to have a different theme for this month. So I will put something down here for what we're gonna do for June, and we'll probably do the other idea for July because I think it's gonna be a fun one. Speaking of fun ones, this was a fun one. I hope you enjoyed it. I can't wait to go see Kara's video. I will, like I said, I will make sure to have everybody linked down below. If you have ideas, please feel free to leave them down below. I really do have so much fun with this series. It really, honestly, my favorite part is sitting down and then just honestly taking the time to look at all of my shadows because I really realize like, I have been like missing out on this whole palette, or, oh my gosh, I forgot I had some of these by this brand, or, oh, you know what? I've been looking for a shade like that and I actually have one. So it's just taking the time to do that. So even if this theme isn't your jam, like you're not all about those underwater vibes, I really recommend that you take some time, maybe pick out something now that you think you'd like to use for the next month or two, put together a palette, whether it's, you know, a quad or a 6-pan or heck, even a 24-pan, you know, live your best life. I know that we really do have fun with this series and we really appreciate you all taking some time out of your day. Okay, so that is gonna be it for today. I feel like Kara and I have some chatting to do to figure out what we're gonna do for next month. I'm sorry if this end of this video seems a little like scrambled. You know, it's just the math of it all. I totally thought like 24 would be 2 years, but if I look at the numbers, it's actually gonna be the next one. Maybe somewhere in there I lost track. That could also be the case. But anyway, it's gonna be July. Okay, lovelies, I'm gonna get going. If you did like this video, please don't forget to give it a like. It really does let YouTube know that they should be showcasing more of my videos, maybe showing more people these BYOPs. You know, we're all trying to like use what we have. The budget cuts are real. Right? Like our beauty budgets, I feel like have been shrinking a little bit, and this is a good way to get some fun out of what you have. I hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you really soon.